He said that he was the new owner.
It upsets me just to even talk about it because I feel so violated.
The issue is out of control.
You can't walk up and say, I like that house. I'm gonna just take it.
It is bizarre.
She can't sign a deed 3 months after she's died.
People have been getting away with it, and we must stop it. And I'm so happy that we are about to do just that. Thanks to you.
Welcome to Misdeeds, an Atlanta News First investigation. The deed to a home is the official ownership paperwork. It outlines the name of the owner, the date in which they began owning, and the physical details of the property. That document is legitimized once it's filed in the county clerk's office. But Atlanta News First Investigates uncovered a legal loophole in Georgia law. No one has to prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on, making way for deed theft and other massive property fraud.
I only owed him a few dollars.
Nothing brings light to this Ellenwood home quite like Eric Clark.
Paperwork back and forward.
He's been the owner of the DeKalb County property for 20 years.
Okay.
Until now.
He said that he was the new owner.
Littered on the table, documents detailed the dilemma. July 2022, a real estate agent left a letter on Eric's front door stating this property has been foreclosed and purchased by Ace Homes, LLC. Call to discuss. Records appear to show he took out a second mortgage loan on the home. He never made payments, forcing it to default, leading to the foreclosure. But Eric never paid it because he says it was not him, claiming the second mortgage loan has his signature forged.
I've never had a second mortgage, just the bottom line. And I'm no fool, I know right from wrong.
Eric filed multiple DeKalb County police reports alleging this is fraud. The 56-year-old described to police, quote, fake documents to steal his house, citing the realtor Mehboob Omar wrongfully has the deed to his home.
Well, I've been stressed out. I had to speak to a psychiatrist. I was just lost in the shuffle.
Right now in DeKalb State Court, he's in a legal fight. It's not his only battle.
Putting your mask on.
Kidney failure. Due to a bad bout of COVID, Eric requires dialysis 3 times a week.
But it beats dying, so anything beats dying.
A DeKalb County judge issued this in the sick father's case. Claim of wrongful foreclosure is not a defense to dispossessory proceeding, meaning even if Eric believes there was fraud, if he does not pay the rent to the new homeowner, they have the right to evict him while he's fighting a civil case. The retiree is not alone.
My house literally was stolen.
Fair housing advocate John Fisher told Atlanta City Council in a September 5th meeting he's uncertain how, but someone wrongfully obtained the deed to his home too, saying there are hundreds of similar but unrelated cases, all a part of a pattern.
The issue is out of control.
Across the metro.
They're creating documents that do not exist in the form of a foreclosure deed or a power of the deed in the process without any proof.
Do you feel helpless in those kind of
We
situations?
really do.
Douglas County Clerk of Superior and State Court, Annetta Danley Stembridge.
Our hands are really tied.
Under current Georgia law, clerks like Stembridge cannot require IDs from people when they come into the clerk's office to file deeds, liens, or any other type of property paperwork.
We cannot question what people file.
So it's the honor system. Simply put, anyone can file documents on your home as long as the paper appears to be legitimate and filled out.
We have to accept it.
Steinbridge recalls times families show up to the office only to learn their home is no longer theirs.
It is a horrible feeling. And just to see, the looks on their faces and, like that's that whole family's inheritance, gone down the drain.
It's why some Georgia clerks want state law to change, require identification to file any property paperwork. The effects are hard for the once homeowners turned tenants, like Eric Clark, who must now pay $2,409 in rent or leave his 20-year residence.
It's painful and it's embarrassing more than anything to go out here to be my age and have to try to start over somewhere. That's painful.
Ace Homes, LLC, the new owner of Eric's house, says other than directing us to the judge's verdict, they have no comment. As for allegations of property fraud, DeKalb Police is investigating. Meanwhile, Eric Clark is still fighting his civil case. It's a misdeed homeowners say police overlook. Houses stolen right from under Metro Atlanta families. It's all part of a troubling trend of deed fraud in Georgia. Fraudulent deeds are often filed in the clerk's office because proof of ID is not required. If it happens to your house, it's important to file a police report to have record of the allegations. However, we uncovered this type of crime often goes without criminal charges, even in the seemingly most simple cases.
He said it was a crazy story, that there's no way this could be.
The police officer said that.
Yes.
An alleged property crime so absurd it'd be comical if not for Brenda Booth's grief. She's mourning her last sibling, sister Claudia Marie.
I'm an orphan. I felt abandoned. It was really, really hard.
January 2022, Claudia died. Since her health had long been declining, her sister says death was expected. But the complexities that followed in this case, Brenda never anticipated.
Yeah, it's been a doozy.
With help from attorney Daniel Calamaro, Brenda filed paperwork in probate court to handle all the assets of her late sister. Among the assets, Claudia's Clayton County home in the city of Rex.
It's usually a fairly routine process. You gather the assets, you gather the debts, you notify the creditors, and you make your disbursements to the family, and away you go. That did not happen here.
When they tried to sell the sisters' home, they learned the house was no longer hers. County clerk records show Claudia's signature on this deed, transferring the home to this private company, EBA Capital Inc. You see Claudia's name right here, signed the 26th day of April 2022. Just one problem. Claudia was already dead by then. She'd been dead for 3 months, according to her state-certified death certificate.
She can't sign a deed 3 months after she's died.
Real estate attorney James Clifton.
How did she do that?
Right, unless she's Lazarus or this company that supposedly received the deed from her sent a witness and notary to heaven, there's no way that this lady could have possibly signed the deed.
Clifton argues there's a sharp jump
growing exponentially
in these cases because there are few state protections.
What they're doing to clients like mine is it's horrible.
As we uncover, to file property paperwork in the clerk's office under current Georgia law, there is no requirement to show ID or prove you own the home. In effect, anyone can file deeds on your house. This veteran attorney claims police are failing to investigate.
Because the general feeling right now, especially from the victims, is that this is a crime fraudsters can get away with.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Attorneys feel that way. We report it to local law enforcement. They tell us that there's nothing they can do about it. They say it's a civil matter only, even though there's forgery, even though there's fraud, which are crimes.
We visited the home to find the new owner.
I'm looking for the owner of the house.
The man there would not tell us why he was at the house, saying he was neither the owner nor did he know anything about the private business EBA Capital Inc. State records show the business is licensed to Emmanuel Clark.
We're calling about the property in Rex, Georgia.
He did not respond to any of our texts or calls. Clayton County officers tried to get answers out of him too after the family filed an official police report. However, when they couldn't verify his identity after talking on the phone with him, they did not pursue arrest warrants for theft by deception.
Do you feel like local officials have taken that seriously?
Not at all. Not at all. So it's been really hard. You don't have anyone to call and say, hey, am I doing this right? What do I do with this? How do I do this? You're just by yourself.
Right about now, you may be thinking, doesn't a deed require notarization? Well, yes, but lawyers even accuse notaries of being in on the forgery because a notary should only stamp the document after they confirm the true identity of the signer. Our investigation found so often that's just not the case. If a deed is wrongfully notarized, it could upend your entire life.
Had you heard of something like this happening before?
No, ma'am, I hadn't heard. I didn't think that would happen to me.
Although in his retirement phase of life, 85-year-old Robert Elder feels like he just took on a new job, trying to correct a misdeed. For more than 50 years,
since the early 70s,
Robert built equity into his Southwest Atlanta property. In that time, he lost his sight.
I've been blind like I am.
His late wife.
I don't have a circle people.
Now, he's even lost the home.
The deed to transfer title has your signature on it.
Somehow or another it was, but I don't know who put it on there.
Last year, a new deed was filed on Robert's house, not just once, but 3 different times. First in July, then again in August with updated wording labeled corrective deed, and once more in September. All transferred Robert's home to someone else. None of the signatures matched the way the 85-year-old signed his name as shown in other official documents. As Atlanta News First investigations revealed, under current Georgia law, to file property paperwork in the clerk's office, no identification is required. No one has to prove they own the property. In effect, anyone can file deeds on your home. In Robert's case, it was not a stranger who did this. A Fulton County lawsuit accuses his own family, a stepson from his first marriage, Tory Elder.
I feel more disappointed.
Property fraud attorney Rick Allenbeck.
Mr. Elder did not sign these documents. Absolutely none. I mean, this is stealing. This is theft. And just because, a gun wasn't used or because nobody broke into somebody's house doesn't mean it's not a crime that shouldn't be prosecuted.
We found 2 addresses linked to the son accused, Tory. He was not there. We later talked to him on the phone. How did your dad's name get on this deed transfer when he says he never signed it?
He's lying.
Why would he be lying?
You need to talk to him about that.
So how did his name get on this deed? How did his name get on this deed?
You know what? You're weird.
The lawsuit blames the notaries, too. As long as a deed is filled out and notarized, the clerks must accept it. However, state law says notaries should stamp documents only when they witness and confirm the true identity of the signer. If Robert never signed the deeds, never met any of the notaries, why were the deeds notarized in the first place? A question we attempted to ask the notaries whose names were on these deeds, Jamila Garth and Christine Smith. The notaries seem very elusive. We went to properties that public records show were possibly connected to the women. We sent messages to their email addresses tied to their notary certifications. One later answered our phone call, Christine Smith. We just want to know why you notarized the document if Mr. Robert Elder never signed it. She refused to explain.
There's no question. Yeah, somebody notarized a document that was signed by someone who was not Mr. Elder.
As for the alleged deed theft, Robert has this to say to the man he considered a son.
Well, I think he ought to get a life and take care of his business.
So you want him to get a life, get his own life?
Well, I think he got one, but he just, he wants to take a shortcut in life. I think that's what he is. Don't take no shortcut.
Welcome back to Misdeeds, an Atlanta News First investigation which uncovers the progression of property fraud in Georgia due to a legal loophole in state policy. Since we began our reporting, legislators filed multiple bills to change Georgia law. Because as we revealed, to file deed paperwork in the clerk's office, no one has to prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on. Thieves were stealing the titles to homes across Metro Atlanta. When House Bill 888 was first filed, the legislation mandated that proof of ID be required when filing a deed. Democrat State Rep Mandisha Thomas says she was disturbed by the cases we reported, calling the loophole bizarre.
I'm baffled. I'm baffled at why we're not using our power and authority to protect Georgians and their homes.
The Democrat-backed legislation stalled, but then came Senate Bill 474, a bipartisan effort to mandate IDs. It was written and backed by the Georgia Realtors Association. Like its predecessor bill, SB 474 stalled too, failing to make the critical legislative deadline for a vote. With just days to spare before the state's legislative session ends, a new bill emerges. HB 1292 tackled predatory real estate problems. It called for IDs when filing a deed, stricter penalties in proven forgery cases, and its sponsor specifically credited Atlanta News First Investigates.
First of all, I want to tell you the inspiration behind the bill. You are a big part of it because your bulldog approach to reporting on this issue, you latched on and you never let go. That was very inspiring.
Atlanta News First Investigations inspired Georgia State Representative Gabe Okoye to sponsor House Bill 1292. Its goal? In the troubling trend of deed theft. For nearly a year, we uncovered case
My home was stolen from me.
after case after case, proving a minor loophole wreaks major havoc.
This is not right.
Our reporting found under Georgia law, no identification was required to file a deed on a home. In effect, you did not have to prove you own the property, meaning fraudsters were forging deeds, transferring titles, stealing houses right from under Metro Atlanta families.
Those people that I've seen in your show, on your reporting, I don't even know if any of them ever recovered their homes yet. No.
People like Eric Clark. We first met the father back in September 2023. Today, do you own your home again?
Not yet. I'm still in court fighting.
Not only was a fake deed filed on his home, according to police reports, but also a second mortgage taken out too. A loan he says he never paid because he never knew about it until it was too late. His home was foreclosed, and now the new owners make him pay rent on the property he once owned for 20 years.
And how much is the rent?
$2,409 a month.
Eric's case helped inspire the new law. Under HB 1292, if convicted, fraudsters must pay all of Eric's attorney fees and damages.
At least now it feels like the law might be on your side.
Yeah.
The new legislation mandates that you prove who you are when filing a deed. Identification must be given to the clerk's office. Oversight, Douglas County Clerk Annetta Danley Stembridge wanted for years.
I was very excited about it.
However, the clerk argues it's only one piece in the puzzle of property fraud.
You know, I can see a few holes in it.
She hopes for even more safeguards beyond solely requiring IDs.
So I think it would stop a lot of it. But whether it would stop all of it, you know, I doubt that.
But for lawmakers like Okoye, it's a major step creating new criminal penalties and recourse for victims.
People have been getting away with it, and we must stop it. And I'm so happy that we are about to do just that. And thanks to you.
House Bill 1292 mandates notaries to keep evidence of all their notarization files, from dates, times, locations, and the person's ID info. Governor Brian Kemp signed the bill, which now goes into effect January 1st, 2025. Since the law did not take effect immediately, homeowners remain at risk. But in the meantime, some police agencies are beginning to change the way they investigate and track these cases.
These windows were off.
The Decatur house on the corner of Columbia Woods Drive is an extension of Marva Reyes's lineage. Her parents first purchased it in 1974 after tragedy.
They made the down payment from policy from my brother's death. This represents our family.
But the property has changed so much this past year, including the ownership.
Taken by someone.
DeKalb County records show Marva called code enforcement March 2024 for trespassing. While there, inspectors cited the property for exterior dwelling violations like debris and yard maintenance. Additionally, the home was supposed to be empty and vacant, but inspectors noted someone gained access, leaving the house in disarray. It's unclear who did it, but this man, whose face we're blurring, was there at the time. A man Marva accuses of being a squatter.
When we came to get the squatter out, the squatter was telling me, oh, the owner said I can stay here. So he called the owner, and I heard him in the background saying, I own the house, I have a title, I have a deed.
Documents reveal there was, in fact, a new deed on the house. According to the latest county records, on January 24th, 2024, Marva's mom, Katie Williams, signed her name on this deed. transferring the house's title over to Ayomide Abarash B. But wait, that can't be. Katie Williams could not have signed over her home January 2024 because by then she was already dead for 7 years. This death certificate confirms Marva's mom, Katie, died February 2017. Marva's dad, Walter Williams, died shortly after too, meaning neither could have signed or transferred the title of their property this year. Additionally, Marva was named the executor of their estate, her late parents leaving her their house. To help you understand, Atlanta News First Investigates spent nearly a year exposing a legal loophole in Georgia. Old state law made it easy for thieves to steal the titles to homes. Under that state policy, to file or transfer a deed on a house, no identification was required. Simply put, the state did not require anyone to actually prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on. New state law takes effect in 2025, mandating identification when filing deeds, but it comes too late for cases like Marva's, after B already exploited the loophole, Marva alleges.
You can't walk up and say, I like that house, I'm gonna just take it. We're not giving up as a family in getting this home back.
There's a lot of paperwork involved.
In the neighboring county, Gwinnett Police says it's trying to get homes back for families too.
It gets complicated. It takes a lot of time and effort to be able to sift through the types of paperwork.
After noticing a trend of stolen homes,
especially the last 6 months,
Corporal Ryan Winderweeder explains detectives upped their department's strategy.
They created a way in our new records management system to flag and tag reports that are believed to be some kind of title fraud.
Specifically, tracking and streamlining the investigative process, all an effort to help prioritize property fraud cases. Although the legal loophole for deed paperwork has been closed, another similar gaping one remains. We found to file eviction paperwork on a home, no proof of identification is required in Georgia. Thieves now exploiting this new way to steal homes too. This is a story about how easily a wrongful eviction can happen to Georgia families.
I just don't understand how the whole thing can happen. I really, really don't.
How the whole thing happened to homeowner Sheila Gibson in just one moment. But first, let's get all caught up on the trend of stolen homes. For nearly a year, Atlanta News First Investigates revealed the progression of property fraud across the metro, all connected to deed theft.
Right now, we're in a crisis.
Thieves stealing the titles to homes. Old Georgia law made it possible. Under that state policy, to file or transfer a deed on a house, no identification was required. Simply put, the state did not require anyone to actually prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on.
Sierra, honestly, I'm speechless. That's insane.
Here are some of the deed theft allegations we tracked. Ultimately, we were credited for helping get a new state law passed, one that now requires proof for identification when filing deed paperwork. But since then, we've learned of a similar yet separate loophole when filing eviction paperwork. Turns out, no one has to prove they own the very property they're seeking an eviction on. Okay, now you're all caught up. Sandy Springs' grandmother, Sheila Gibson.
It upsets me just to even talk about it because I feel so violated.
Violated because at any moment she feels she could be kicked out of her Sandy Springs house on Riverside Drive.
Although I'm not affluent, we kind of, did a lot of sacrificing to buy the house.
Real estate records show she's been the owner since 2020. Paying
$480,000. Okay.
She's the owner, yet when the 69-year-old pulled up to her driveway in December 2022, this sign was posted, scheduled to be evicted immediately by the Fulton County Marshal's Department. Magistrate court documents show deputies tried to execute the eviction once before in October too, but they were unable to gain access to the property. She has her faulty gate to thank.
Had it not been for that gate, we could have come home and all of our possessions would have been on the street.
The case, a complicated web of paperwork problems. The suspect, Michael James Brough. Michael filed paperwork in the Fulton County Clerk's office claiming he was the agent of the Sandy Springs home, that the occupants had past due rent of $12,000. But remember, Sheila owns her house. She does not owe anyone rent, records confirm. What's more, The suspect even filed more paperwork alleging he'd previously served an initial eviction notice months earlier, claiming the defendant's failure to file answer in court should grant him possession of the property. Sheila says it's all untrue.
To me, it's so crazy how someone can just walk into an office, provide no identification. No one bothers to check on the computers that are in the office to make sure this person actually owns the home, if they have title. Nothing was done.
The alleged fake landlord was able to file all this paperwork without having to prove anything because state law does not explicitly require it when initially filing for evictions. As long as those initial documents are completely filled out, county clerks like Shay Alexander must accept it.
They e-file it, so it's an electronic process. They could be at their kitchen table.
Wow.
And they send it to us. We look to see if it's in proper form.
And so there's not even like identification, like they don't have to submit an ID?
Not at all.
They don't have to show a deed
show
that they own the
proof,
property?
Nothing.
It's the honor system, and the way it's all set up, there's no way for anyone to submit proof. Additionally, Georgia clerks cannot investigate eviction documents or interrogate anyone who's filing them either. Only later would a judge or jury decide the facts of a case. Although so much remains at stake, current law limits the clerk's role.
So you understand the weight of the reality of these situations?
I understand. I am the clerk of Superior Court. I manage all documents for Fulton County. So you're talking about, it's not paper for me, it's people's lives.
After Sheila learned about the wrongful eviction proceeding against her family, she got Sandy Springs police involved.
Welcome to the zoo.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Officers filed the now criminal case as fraud, swindle, confidence game. Sheila then filed a civil suit against the suspect. The court ruled in her favor after suspect Michael James never responded.
For the property in Sandy Springs?
He did not respond to our attempts to reach him either. However, he's now appealing Sheila's civil court win. But why? It brings us back to that complex web. Public records suggest Michael James is possibly living in Fort Pierce, Florida, with the woman named Tabitha Coates. A previous 2009 unrelated civil suit identifies the pair as a couple. Fulton County public records reveal Tabitha once owned the Sandy Springs house in question. Michael also previously lived there. Back in 2018, the home was foreclosed and auctioned off after Tabitha failed to pay her mortgage loan. At that auction, an LLC won the highest bid, buying the home, then years later, selling it to Sheila. This case gets murkier. Sheila's attorneys allege in court filings that Tabitha went as far as recently forging a new deed, transferring the house's title back to herself. The problematic paperwork,
It's taken until I lost my hair.
not only disrupting Sheila's peace,
I don't sleep well. I'm anxious all the time.
but also exposing a loophole in the law.
This is like a criminal's paradise. If it's this easy, this is very easy what this guy's done.
Since we started our investigation, Sandy Springs police officially charged Michael James with perjury, filing a false document, and forgery. They have not found or arrested him yet. As for the loophole in eviction paperwork, state law would have to be amended once again. We'll be watching come next legislative session. Thanks for watching Misdeeds with Atlanta News First Investigates.